this little stick to point at what I'm reading. The Kennedy family scandal. What really happened at Chappaquiddick? Mary Jo Kopechin died when a car Ted Kennedy was driving plunged off a bridge. Nearly 50 years later, her family hopes a new film will help answer lingering questions about that night and shine a light on the extraordinary young women they loved. By Liz McNeil. The Call. As Mary Jo Kopechin's mother, Gwen, later described it, was brief. Ted Kennedy was crying, barely able to speak. He told Gwen there'd been an accident and Mary Jo had died, says Mary Jo's aunt, Georgetta Potowski. Gwen just screamed and screamed. The neighbors found her. She had collapsed in shock. I'm gonna take a sip of my wine. It's a Saturday night. At first, Gwen and her husband, Joe Kopechin, an insurance salesman, believed Senator Kennedy's account of the night of July 18th, 1969, when his car plunged off a narrow wooden bridge on Chappaquiddick Island, just off Martha's Vineyard, landing upside down in a tidal pond with the Kopechin's only child, 28, trapped inside. They trusted him, says Potowski. They loved the Kennedys, everyone did, but later on, they started to question what happened. The scandal surrounding that tragedy, starting with the 10-hour delay between when Kennedy escaped from the car and when he reported the accident to police, dogged Kennedy, who died in 2009 at age 77 after battling brain cancer. Throughout his career in the Senate and, many believe, kept the youngest son of America's most powerful political dynasty from winning the White House. But it's the unanswered questions about Mary Jo's final hours. Who was on the island for a reunion of her fellow campaign workers for Ted's brother, Bobby, assassinated a year earlier, that still haunt her family? After her death, Gwen and Joe, both now deceased, would call Ted Kennedy and say, "We need some answers," says Potowski, 75, who was 2 years younger than Mary Jo and considered her a sister. The longer it went on, more and more inconsistencies were discovered, and he wasn't telling them anything. Nearly 5 decades later, a new film, Chappaquiddick, opening April 6th, explores that July night and the pivotal week that followed, when Kennedy secluded himself in his family's Hyannisport, Massachusetts compound, huddling with advisors about how to mitigate his legal peril. He was ultimately charged with leaving the scene of an accident and salvage his political future while local authorities neglected any real investigation of Mary Jo's death. Our mission was to honor Mary Jo, says Taylor Allen, who wrote the film's screenplay with Andrew Logan, and to show her legacy as a capable, smart campaign operative. Don't mind me. The film has not been warmly received by the Kennedy camp. Of course, longtime aide Bob Schramm tells people by email that Kennedy carried the burden of that tragic accident every day of his life. There have been more than 20 books and countless articles written about it, some attempting to find the truth and others trafficking in conspiracy theories. This movie pretends to do the former. In reality, it does the latter. In addition, literary agent Esther Newberg, 74, who worked for Bobby Kennedy with Mary Jo and was at the Chappaquiddick reunion that night, says it was frustrating to read the screenplay and see one thing made up after another. They weren't there and they didn't speak to anybody who was. Still, Potosky and her son, William Nelson, 46, hope the film may prompt someone to come forward with new information. They also hope the movie depiction will help the world understand the real Mary Jo, who was reduced at the time to what William calls the quote-unquote girl in the car, or, as a 1969 Daily News headline put it, Teddy escapes, blonde drowns. Wow, that's really insensitive. Says Potosky, she was much more than a secretary. She set up campaign headquarters and canvassed for votes. She typed up Bobby's declaration to run for president. She thought the world of him. Growing up in East Orange, New Jersey, Mary Jo loved the jitterbug, shopping, and the Brooklyn Dodgers. We'd spend summers reading, says Potosky. She was serious. If you knew a dirty joke, you didn't tell her. She wanted to make a difference. She believed in JFK's idea of ask what you can do for your country. What drew her to a rental cottage on Chappaquiddick was a party hosted by Ted Kennedy for her and the other Boiler Room girls, nicknamed for the campaign office where they'd worked together. Kennedy also invited 5 men, all but one married. After cocktails and dinner, by Kennedy's account, Mary Jo asked him for a ride so she could return to her motel before midnight. Instead of turning left toward the ferry, he took a hard right down an unlit dirt road toward a secluded beach and didn't see the bridge until it was too late. 10 hours later, when Kennedy fully realized what had happened, he claimed he contacted police. It took him 10 hours. But one newspaper's report of multiple phone calls charged to his credit card in the hours after the accident created doubt he'd been entirely truthful. And in the 1980s, his cousin Joe Gargan told author Leo Damore, senatorial privilege, that Kennedy had asked Gargan to say Mary Jo was driving that night. Adding to the mystery, authorities did not order an autopsy for Mary Jo, and her parents didn't insist on one. Years later, Gwen said to me that was the biggest mistake she ever made, notes Potosky. Even after an inquest concluded that Kennedy's negligence appears to have contributed to the death of Mary Jo Kopechin, many questions lingered. Why didn't police ask Kennedy if he'd been drinking? I'm sure he was. Did another woman's purse on the front seat mean a third person was in the car? The case, on paper, was closed. The result for Kennedy, a 2-month suspended sentence and a year's probation. Mary Jo's parents were visibly told to just go along. And after all this is over, we'll talk, says Potosky. When Kennedy invited them to Hyannis Port months later, they thought they were going to find out what happened. They walked into a cocktail party, and he said hello, then disappeared. They never had a conversation. Wow, what an asshole. The Kopechins eventually received $140,000, part of it from Kennedy's car insurance, and donated regard as indefensible the fact that I did not report the accident to the police immediately. Ted Kennedy, it is July 25th, 1969, televised address. I suggest that you guys read up on this case. It's really sad, and something's just not right there. Maybe I'll do my own research and present it to you guys. But for now, I'm still working on another case for you. So I thought this would hold you over in the meantime. So I